Yeah, I would basically say don't think about that anymore. What? What a way to
Picked a choice.
start. You
Yeah, I picked a
absolutely
choice moment to
every good
start.
every time. Every
I was
time.
trying to get a different reaction this time than we've had other times, but so welcome back to First Watch Rewatch, where we're discussing season 1 of The West Wing during at least our inaugural season of this. This is episode 5, discussing episodes season 1, episodes 13, 14, and 15. I am Tom Duncan, since I don't want to forget my introduction this time.
Right, and I am Sara Shea. And yeah, we are diving into these episodes. Let's just do it. Oh, here's what we should say, because I think it's going to come up some more. What is this disclaimer that we should be making about political views and such?
You
Thomas?
had said early on that you do not want to take any associated political stance early on. I am certainly not encumbered by said things in relation to my day job or my profession.
Right.
In the same way that you feel you are. And so
Yeah.
I just wanted to, because some people might listen to one episode singly as opposed to other ones. I just want to do some heavy lifting on the front end and disclose that so that people don't associate you with my opinions or policy views, and so that they can keep that separate. Those are
Right.
my opinions alone and should be viewed as such.
Right, and it's not that I'm not going to express opinions. However, I am going to refrain from taking specific, explicit stances on a party line. So I will be, as much as I can, be nonpartisan. I can still express opinions that are maybe partisan depending on what's going on, but you're not going to actually know what my political affiliations are. Association with Thomas does not mean that we share the same political views, even though I think we have a healthy respect for each other. We can, I think, certainly talk about pretty much anything. So,
despite being a flaming liberal, I've been surrounded by religious conservative Republicans most of my life. And I know really how to speak a lot of their language.
yeah.
And it does not bother me in the slightest. So I'm actually probably more comfortable talking at times to conservative Republicans than I am flaming liberals, which is a weird thing to say. But at the same time,
Right.
you know, like I'm comfortable in all sorts of different things. I just don't want people to be confused and conflate my policy advocacy or my opinions to anything and project them onto you just because you're sharing a screen.
Correct, because these are statements that do need to be stated right now because of the state of the world, and depending on how you want to phrase it, the horrors persisting, whatever it is. I am a school teacher. I have to maintain a public persona that does not take either side, and I believe that if I am a good teacher that I stick to that. People are there are definitely going to be people who will be like, no, you should absolutely, if you aren't on the front lines, you're nope. I am.
That's fine. We'll close it up with some con law terms here just for everybody else since we're nerds. But you are not content discriminatory, but you are viewpoint discriminatory.
Wait, that still sounds bad.
In the way that it's normally understood, it would be, but yes.
Yeah.
All I'm meaning by viewpoint discriminatory is that you refuse to take one.
I refuse. Right. I refuse to take a side. It's just not.
You have no problem discussing the subject. You have a problem taking a particular side.
Right. Not because I'm wishy-washy, but because I'm protecting myself and my students and
Yes.
my.
And I'm trying to respect that, and that's
Yes.
my only intention by doing that on the front end. So
yes.
let's dive in here to episode 13 and get this started a lot sooner than we did last episode.
Yeah.
People will notice we're wearing the same shirts as we were in the last video because we're recording this on the same day. Anyway, episode 13 is entitled Take Out the Trash Day, directed by Ken Olin, written by Aaron Sorkin. This debuted on January 26th, 2000. So we are now in the 2000s. Y2K has happened. Nobody exploded.
Died. Yeah.
that we know of, at least. I
Right.
mean, it's 26 years later. We would hope that things went okay. But anyway, plot summary for this one. The president and staff deal with a study on sex education in public schools, refuting the use of abstinence-only techniques. A forthcoming signing of a hate crime bill, the parents of a young man killed with religious-motivated homophobic violence, and an advance man to the vice president who has abused his position. CJ and Danny continue to deal with their relationship. An influential man offers Leo some unwelcome advice, which he refuses. A senior member of the House of Representatives summons Josh and Sam and leans hard on them. They make a deal which avoids a hearing on Leo and related inquiries. Sam finds out how Lillianfield and Claypool obtained the information about Leo's addiction and treatment. Leo and the young staffer who leaked the information agree to give each other a second chance. Now, they do some, like, it becomes a running thing where Donna asks some really, like, simple questions, such as the title of this episode. And then we give this exposition of Josh explaining something.
It's great.
Yeah. It's a way of working it in without it actually seeming like we're working in the exposition. But taking out the trash day has become such a normalized term within politics because of this show.
Right.
And so there are many things like that throughout the course of the show that have become very popularized in the last 26 years. There is no day in the calendar anymore that is take out the trash day, because every day under the current administration is take out the trash day. It's wake up to tweets about war with Greenland. It's wake up to why aren't interest rates falling quick enough. All sorts of random shit. Oh, ex-cabinet member is now fired. That happens by tweet now too. So any number of things. And again, this goes back to our previous conversation. These opinions are my own, and I'm just poking fun at it because I can. Now, let's start here on this particular episode. We had left off with the CJ and Danny, let's say, makeout session from the previous episode. Where are we at? How are we feeling?
It's so cute. I love it. It's so cute. It's cute. Is this the one where they keep pulling each other in for the smooches? Yeah.
Yep.
I like it. It's really adorable, and I like it because it's very demure. Like it's not excessive. It really is them taking a stolen moment here and there, recognizing why this might be problematic, but they do seem to genuinely like each other. I like their banter. It's, like I said previously, I'm all in on this, and I had realized in the previous that I was smiling every time they are together, so now I'm just excited to see them together. I want there to be more smooching, and yeah, it's so cute. I like it. It's cute.
Okay. Moving to one of the other main plots, and I will say the Leo and young staffer conversation I want to leave towards the end of this episode. Fair. Because I think that was a good spot to end it on. But now, pages 21 and 22, where Josh references that those are pages that all women should find out about, what might you think were on those pages?
I'm sorry, what are we talking about? Oh, you mean
the sex education report.
Right, the abstinence-only sex education report.
Yes, no, the abstinence plus sex education. Which sounds like a streaming service for porn.
Or not porn. It's just people sitting around.
Here, let me lecture you as I slowly remove a shirt. This is how to be puritanical. You should not have sex. I'm sorry, Mrs. Wadsworth.
This is so... It's actually quite humorous, and to think there was a public outcry when we had who was it who talked about people should be masturbating. And I can't remember who. Gosh,
I don't recall this.
Oh yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, it's.
I mean, I am a single male in my 30s. It's not foreign to me.
Yeah. So, what was on the pages that every woman should know about? I don't know. It never made it into classrooms when I was in school, so I still don't know. You know what? We had sex education in...
You have been married twice and you have a child. I would hope that you had at least knew parts of pages 21 and 22.
Our sex education happened in, like, the end of elementary school. Elementary school went up to 6th grade, and so we did it in 6th grade, and it was pretty straightforward. We revisited it again in middle school in, like, 7th grade, where we watched videos and had a little bit more explicit demonstrations of how to use condoms and venereal diseases, or, sorry, I can't call it that anymore, sexually transmitted infections, because can't say that. So...
Really? On this podcast, I think as the editor-in-chief, you can say whatever you'd like.
No, I know. I'm saying, like, this was a problem, like, that you can't say STDs. You can only say STIs, but even suggesting that these are infections is still, people consider it problematic now. Whatever. These are things that only happen.
This is news to me, but all right, fine. We'll go with it.
I have more information on
And I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
See, this is going from the territory of I was meaning it as a joke, and it obviously landed, and then now it's just slowly declining and getting too serious.
Oh, God.
So let's move on to. There is a moment within the hate crime bill, and actually, yes, that's this episode. That's right. It's the Lydells, where we were talking about it in the last episode that it was leading to this point.
Right.
There's a conversation with the father of Lyle Lydell. That moment still hits hard.
Well, and I think
27 years later, 26 years later.
You think it's going to go a different way.
Yeah.
Because the way that they lead this up is that it's implied that the father is homophobic, essentially, and that he's ashamed that his child has been outed, and that there's some implication that he is against this bill because he doesn't care about gay people, and potentially, I think it doesn't actually say this, but there's this, could it possibly be that he thinks his own son deserved to die because he was gay? And it doesn't go that way at all, which is good. I think as an audience, we're like, oh, thank goodness. But he goes so far beyond that recognizing we can't put this in front of the public the way that we thought, because we thought we were dealing with somebody who was a homophobic jerk. What we're actually dealing with is somebody who dislikes the president and is going to use this as an opportunity to I don't know, badmouth him. We'll say that in a really simplified way. That's not really what I mean, but you know what I mean. And so therefore we can't really have them appearing together because they're not going to perform quietly the way that we want them to. So I feel like this isn't quite over, even though it could be.
As far as I can recall, this one particular issue by itself, not that the issue of homosexuality overall is over. There's actually a very good episode later on where Josh has to debate, I think it's essentially what the Defense of Marriage Act is in Congress with a congressman, and they have a ongoing dialogue throughout the course of the episode. It's kind of a singular one-off kind of thing, but so the topic does return, But at least for this storyline and the hate crime bill and the rest of it, it's that is effectively over.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting, and I liked it as the way that the thread basically followed, and I think it got to a place where essentially we say, yeah, we have addressed this particular issue, and now we can put it to bed. Yeah.
Well, and again, this is another one where we dropped the seeds a couple of episodes ago in 10, and now we're finishing it off in 13. And frankly, that could be good writing. It could be great writing. I don't know. It depends on what, especially when you have multiple episodes to play with, and especially given that the timeline of what happens in government. I mean, they've been talking about the Mendoza nomination now so we're going to be through episode 15. I think that happened originally in like episode 8 or 9. And it still hasn't, by the time we get through episode 15, he still hasn't been officially confirmed. So the timeline of a lot of these things, I know we're more used to the last confirmation. Well, I can't remember how long it took Ketanji Brown Jackson to get through confirmation. I want to say it was a relatively short period of time, but I think Amy Coney Barrett got nominated and put in because of the timeline of the election within like a month. So these long drawn out confirmation fights and the rest of that just is not, it doesn't ring as true. But the nature of politics, especially during the 90s where Congress was still doing its job, was actually like holding hearings and effectively like doing committee stuff. And they were actually on C-SPAN instead of on recess constantly or on Fox News. Then, you know, there was a lot more of this stuff, and it took a lot longer to parse things out. In this particular episode, I don't find that to be the case. But we hit home on this one point, and I thought it was an effective episode. Again, we've highlighted, and we talked about it in the last episode, and we've talked about it in previous episodes. This is an Aaron Sorkin solo written piece, and I think it's got two really effective scenes in this. One we haven't talked about yet, and the other one being this moment where the father quite literally puts it in very human terms. And then we've brought that up again, where what are the qualities that my son lacked that you thought he was not capable of defending his country or having a family or any of the other things? And I thought it put it in a set of terms that people didn't talk about for probably another 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that such a hard shift from us thinking he hates his child to him essentially being like, this administration hates my child because they've done nothing to protect him before now. So why should I even give you the time of day? It was very, very, very good and very effective. Now, I know we're going to talk about this other thing with Leo, but there's this other little subplot that they had with the PBS funding and Toby basically going and having to talk about how he used to watch cooking shows on PBS, and they were like, you used to watch cooking shows? And he was like, I used to watch Julia Child. And I was just like, I love this because that was my childhood as well. And growing up and watching PBS programming, the tons of cooking shows that were on, Julia Child, but also Yen Can Cook, You Can Too, and The Frugal Gourmet, and all of these sorts of cooking shows that I used to, actually just thinking about Yen Can Cook, I'm just like, that was so great. I just, as a little deviation, was just like, I don't know if people can understand, like, yeah, loved it.
So on the advice of the SB speech by Jim Valvano from years ago, for the last probably decade and a half, I have tried to have a good cry every day as somewhat of a cathartic experience to just emotionally push my boundaries on a daily basis. And I will tell you, watching Fred Rogers tell me I matter on YouTube, that does it for me a lot.
Did you actually watch Mr. Rogers as a kid, yeah.
Yes. I was the last set of kids before he retired and then died.
Okay, so 2 things. The Jim Valvano speech is one of the greatest speeches ever written.
It wasn't written, but okay.
You don't need to correct me when you know what I mean. Okay.
You said you liked that.
No, I do. But the reference to that, perfect. Mr. Rogers dying is the only time I have ever cried over the death of a public figure. The only time. That doesn't mean there aren't other times where I haven't, like, where I've been emotionally affected, but like actually feeling despair and shedding tears, it's the only time. And to me, that is a indication for how powerful his show was. The fact that he spoke before Congress about.
Oh yeah.
Whoo! Okay.
Do we need to move on? Like, I think I don't want to put you in a position to, but yes. The Muppets and Sesame Street and Fred Rogers. There's a lot of PBS that used to be something, and it really isn't much anymore, especially as we've transitioned away from especially network television, but just television in general, and there's more stuff available in other places, and now Sesame Street got bought out by Netflix, et cetera, and whatever else. I will say, for my child and upbringing during the 90s, you know what is an underrated film? Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh gosh, I haven't watched Muppet Treasure Island in a really long time. Yeah, it is
That
really good.
That was a staple when I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Oh,
like,
man.
I watched that shit on repeat. Anyway, with Tim Curry.
No, I know, where he is also playing a Muppet.
Well, he's not exactly a Muppet, but he's Long John Silver.
He acts like a Muppet because he's Tim Cook.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Bookmarking
Now-
that to watch later. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in years now, but it's an underrated film. People talk about the Muppets and then they never bring that one up. They bring up, the Christmas Muppet Carol or whatever it is, and
Carol.
Muppets Take Manhattan and the original Muppet movie, but justice for Muppet Treasure Island.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, and then let's see here. So we already talked about that. Any thoughts on kind of the bartering over whether or not there will be hearings on Leo and the burying of the report? I mean, it's stuff that happens. It feels like the sausage being made, but
I think it felt really sinister, and
as far as backroom deals go, this is very minor.
yeah, I just
We won't publicly embarrass your boss so long as we don't have to talk about an embarrassing topic.
yeah, I get it. I just Leo has already made the public declaration that he's an addict, so I guess they keep, for me, I'm just like, why are we still talking about this? I am interested in how did this information get out, but this whole public thing, like, it's out in public.
Yes, so now they get to hold the hearings on what the cover-up was and the rest of it and make political hay over it.
Right.
That's what they're really talking about.
Yeah.
Is it's not whether or not he was doing drugs. It's now, can we embarrass you and make additional political points that undercuts you and makes
Right.
things extra difficult. Which,
Yeah.
in this modern era, no one would miss that opportunity. Like,
Right.
there would be... I don't want to get into Benghazi, but that's a prime example of this, where we know what roughly happened. People got information wrong on the initial day, and then we're going to hold like 3 or 4 years worth of hearings on all of that. So anyway, Moving on. Now, there is, before the final big moment that I wanted to talk about, there is a additional moment, again, I guess emotionality, sentimentality, and such, with CJ trying to bring up the Lydells to Danny. Since you are heavily invested in this relationship, how did you take that moment?
Can you restate for me what actually happens?
She was trying to leak the story to him, and he said, I won't take it.
Right.
I've taken it from everybody else, but I won't take it from you because
right.
you're going to hate me, and then that's going to be a problem for me.
Right. Yes, I liked this, that there is this sense of integrity that he is showing, because that's what I questioned about him when we very first met him, when she was giving him a tip, right? And I was like, I don't know if he's going to be somebody that we can trust, if he's just like milking this or whatever. And I think that he is essentially proving in this moment that so we also see that she's kind of overstepping and that she should not probably be providing him with this information. And the only reason that he's getting it is because they're smooching. But that he's like, nope. Like, I am going to do my best to keep business and personal stuff separate. And that is difficult. But I need to be able to do my job, and you need to be able to do your job. And I want to be able to, we'll just use these words, right? I just want to be able to love you outside of that. And part of the reason that I do love you is because of your job and how good you are at your job. But I don't want to violate your job. I don't want you to violate my job. Like, so yeah, integrity, I think, is the best word to use there. So I liked the exchange. It shows the complication that is arising from their relationship, and why I like it as a slow burn and not all right, we have decided that we like each other and now we're going to have sex and we're going to be messy about it, and then your audience is literally going to question every decision that you make because everybody knows that you're having sex together. And then that means that we can't trust literally anybody else associated with anyone because you guys are stupid and can't keep it in your pants. So I like it that we have to be real people. We have to be real people, and we have to actually act with caution on a lot of different levels, and it can't just be what feels good in the moment, right? Because there are consequences on a lot of different levels.
Okay. Now, we'll get to the final moments of the episode, which I find to be the most impactful and is a nice encapsulation of the Sorkinism in this show. Leo quite literally forgives his attacker and gives her a second chance by explaining his vulnerability, essentially. This is not something you ever see in politics. This is by far a idealized version of all of this, because there would be retribution and all the rest of it, and more than likely that staffer becomes a staffer for the opposing side on the Hill, and and there's all sorts of fallout from that particular situation. The fact that he even wanted her to meet him and explain that is something that I don't think any of us in our regular jobs, if this was not politically related, would necessarily do. But he does this moment, and I think it's a nice bridge of catharsis of trying to explain addiction, explain alcoholism. I wonder, especially because Aaron Sorkin has had his problems with both, if some of this is his influence from this, as the primary and only writer of this episode, is him reflecting on his own issues, as well as if he had a father that also had issues, and trying to work through, in his writing, some forgiveness for himself. But I still find this moment to be emotional for me, because this is a kindness, a forgiveness that we don't often see.
She comes in and essentially is like, I don't like you. Like, here's all of this type of stuff. I want it. Once I found this out, you disgust me, and you have no redeeming qualities. And so he very carefully, not only does he tell her his story, but he gets information from her about her story and her background. And so it's actually an exchange of information, and she's not necessarily prepared or cognizant of what he is doing, but essentially he reveals through their conversation, or it is revealed that essentially she's taking out on him her anger at her own father and her own experiences. So while you're talking about Aaron Sorkin writing this out, I think that's accurate. And I think that Leo's conversation with her is a little bit like a proxy conversation for his own kids, right? And his family, because things have fallen apart with his wife. And then now we know that there's all of this other stuff that has been in the background this whole time. And so this conversation with this woman affords not only this woman an opportunity to see the error of her ways, and not that he didn't deserve scrutiny, but that he didn't deserve to be publicly crucified because he has made significant changes. I think they say it's been 6 years, but we talk now about how, something that you said 25 years ago when you were 5, okay, we're now gonna hold you in the court of public opinion because we can never let anything go, right? So we have kind of this double standard where we need to forgive and forget, and yet we're gonna never forget anything. Everything is tabulated. So calling her to task on this, like, this was inappropriate, and here's how you are harming me, and how you are harming not just me but other people and their jobs, and the way that this kind of goes and ripples out in lots of different ways, not just in the it's costing me my job sort of way. But there is also a sense of self-flagellation that is going on while he is talking about his experiences, which I think is hard to watch. But if you know anybody who is an addict or an alcoholic or any of those things, that is a level of taking inventory and introspection that is absolutely necessary for them to be able to improve and hit like that hitting rock bottom. For that, there has to be a point for people in order for them to make things better. And for some people, they never get to the bottom, and outside perspectives would be like, this should be the bottom, and they just like keep tunneling. So you're talking about how him forgiving her is something that we don't typically see. I agree. And this is part of this idealism, right? That we see people and how maybe we don't necessarily know that we want them to act that way, but gives us something that we can aspire to. I would not look at Leo and his background and being something that I can identify with, or identify with as him and I being similar, or I want to be like Leo. But in this moment, when he is being vulnerable and forgiving this person who has deeply, deeply harmed him and his job and his career, his all of that type of stuff,
and the people he cares about,
and the people he cares about, I'm like, wow, I do want to be like Leo in this moment, because he doesn't have to have this conversation with her. He doesn't have to forgive her. This is completely behind the scenes. There's not going to be a shaking hands out in public or an acknowledgement of any of that. It is two people talking to each other, and that is the gist of it. There's no parade or whatever. Oh, they forgave each other. Yay. Right. It's this quiet little moment. I do want to be like Leo in that moment, forgiving someone who has harmed me because I'm recognizing that they have also been harmed, right? It's not that he's magnanimously just being like, I forgive you. It is, he knows where this has come from. And
I think it's actually, and this is the last point I'd like to highlight before we move on to episode 14, how progressive that conversation is, particularly as it relates to addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something only someone who's gone through addiction,
yeah,
that has been through treatment, that has been through meetings, could exemplify, because it is such a forward feeling moment, especially the general public's understanding of addiction in 2000 versus in 2026 is much less refined. And to have this level of understanding, appreciation, sympathy towards addicts, that there's no cure, you can't just decide, it's something that you live with on a day-to-day basis, and it's always around, I think is so ahead of its time that I just wanted to highlight it here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very, very, very well done.
All right, so let's move to episode 14, and this is entitled Take This Sabbath Day. This was directed by Thomas Schlamme, who did the original episode of the pilot. The story was by Lawrence O'Donnell Jr. and Paul Redford and Aaron Sorkin, teleplay by Aaron Sorkin. So I think there's enough Sorkin-ness stuff here to say that, I especially because I think this episode sticks with me a lot, and it hits me very hard emotionally. So despite him not writing it solely by himself, I think him doing the teleplay has a significance beyond what we would normally expect, where it's a mutual story or divided among multiple people that we've been a little bit critical of before. February 9th, 2000 was its original debut date. The summary here: late on a Friday, the Supreme Court declines to set aside the death sentence of a federal prisoner for 2 drug-related murders and orders the execution to take place early on the following Monday at the federal penitentiary at Terre Haute, Indiana. One of the appellant's public defenders is Sam's former bully from high school, who places a last-effort call to Sam in hopes of saving his client through presidential intervention. Sam answers as he's unsuccessfully trying to leave the White House for a weekend of sailing, and the two then meet in person. On Saturday morning, President Bartlett returns from Stockholm. Donna finds Josh asleep and hungover in his office after a bachelor party. Sam calls Toby at his temple while his rabbi presents a sermon against capital punishment, and as Sam's classmate found the rabbi and arranged for him to preach to Toby. Meanwhile, Josephine Joey Lucas, played by Marlee Matlin, the deaf campaign manager for a Democratic House candidate from Southern California, using American Sign Language through her interpreter Kenny, aggressively asks Josh why the White House has caused the Democratic National Committee to reduce the funding for her campaign, and then demands to meet the president. When Josh assures her that there is no way for her to meet the president, he appears at Josh's door and gives Joey a tour of the Oval Office. The president calls the Pope and sends for his parish priest, Carl Malden, in his final acting role, whom he knew as a boy. He also discusses the death penalty separately with Charlie and Joey, who is a Quaker. As Joey and Kenny leave their hotel to return to California, Josh, at the request of the president, offers Joey an apology and a suggestion. The president continues to agonize over his decision and makes a confession to his priest as the episode closes. So this episode, in contrast to the last one where we led up to that final moment and the emotionality, that's where I would actually like to start this episode, because you could feel that there's a one-off in here. We don't get a lot of the other minor plot lines. There is this thing with Joey Lucas that's happening on the side, which does come up again, so that's a new line in the water that we're eventually going to come back to. She's a recurring character throughout the history of the show as well, and so they're introducing some of these newer, smaller characters who are recurring. We've got Lord John Marbury that we talked about in our last episode. We've got this Marlee Matlin, Joey Lucas character. We've got plenty of other people. Stockard Channing, obviously, as the First Lady. She starts to take on a bigger and bigger role as the show goes along. We have Elizabeth Moss, who kind of comes in and out at various times during the history of the show. But in this particular episode, the heaviness, everything that it's dealing with is the country's policy and preference on the death penalty, which was a hot button issue in the 90s. It came up during multiple presidential debates, most specifically, I think, in the 1992 debates, if I recall correctly. And then it ends on this very impactful scene with Carl Malden in his final acting role with Martin Sheen. So, initial reactions to the emotional heaviness of this episode.
Yeah, it's intense. And
I think this is probably a top 5 episode of the show for me. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and this is the best out of these 3 for sure. And there's so much going on with this storyline. It doesn't even matter if the person is guilty or not. You can commute the sentence of someone who is guilty. That's not even up for debate. But the capital punishment debate is really intense, and I think it's easy sometimes for people to take a stand without thinking about it too much, either being absolutely for it or absolutely against it. And for example, Bartlett asking Charlie, what would you do? Oh,
it's really hard for me to put myself in those shoes, but I understand the feeling, which is, again, why the decision isn't in his hand, but it's in a jury of his peers. Because I think we all feel that level of retribution. And full disclosure on parts of this is it would inform our conversation. My first thoughts and understanding, I guess, framing of the debate on this came when my dad, who has my Sunday school teacher in, I think at this exact time, brought this into our Sunday school class and discussed the death penalty as our Sunday school topic for a week. And that got some blowback. Anyway, it's a hot button issue, particularly as it relates to religion. I would actually say that there was a really good series recently on his regular podcast channel, but Malcolm Gladwell discussed capital punishment and went through some of this recently for a particular topic. He took a storyline out of a set of men who were executed and went through their stories, and it's utterly horrifying, in my opinion. I don't think the state, in a personal disclosure, has any business in capital punishment. I don't like the concept at all, just bar none. I don't, and as a deterrence, I don't think it works. But I also understand that there are people that feel very strongly opposed to that. And this is not one of the core bedrock things, but this is one area where I feel like my Christianity informs my opinion here. But in the same way, there are people that say the opposite, that their Christianity informs their opinion on the opposite side of this discussion. And I can at least respect it, even though I oppose it.
I think that this is an issue in particular which is not partisan. There is no hardline way to follow capital punishment if you are a liberal or a conservative. There's just isn't. And it is much more divided on it's divided on morality, which can sometimes be religion, but not all of the time. Because as you said, some people can say, I'm Christian and that is why I believe in the death penalty. I am Christian and that is why I believe that it's wrong, right? So it's not a conservative or a liberal debate. It's not. And so this is one of these really fascinating components where you have something that we get to address in almost an amoral manner, and amoral meaning without morals, but because it is such a moral issue. And so you're able to, people start sitting back and being like, I really have to think about this in terms of an emotional reaction rather than a moral reaction, because even people who are for the death penalty, okay, are going to acknowledge this is a crime. The death penalty usually happens because of a substantial crime. Not always the case, okay? Especially back at the, like in the 20s, in the 30s, we were executing people for prohibition stuff.
Well, and a lot of other stuff we were doing.
But you can also have people who are against the death penalty who are like, yes, a significant crime has happened. So what do? Everybody agrees that an issue has happened. It is not just a debate to this person is guilty and this person is not guilty, right? Let's pretend that nobody is ever convicted and sentenced to the death penalty who is innocent. Like, that is a whole other topic of debate. Right?
If you want something on that, the movie is effective, but I think the book is better in Bryan Stevenson's, and I'm forgetting what the name of his book is. And I, of course, have it sitting on my coffee table, and I can't think of what the name is, but where he represents an innocent man on death row. But the point being, I think this is something that...
Is it Just Mercy?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Just Mercy. Yes. You can have that one. Point Sarah. In the, I don't know, whatever point system we have, if we're tracking one, taking tallies or whatnot. But I will say there are two stories specifically that I have used on multiple occasions when talking to other people, because they are so good at relating a parable trackline and making it understandable for people. This is one, and I meant from this show specifically. I've used other parables, but this one, the one Carl Malden relates at the end of the episode of the guy, God will save me, and he doesn't take all of the opportunities that are placed in front of him. And the other one is a metaphor or a parable that we'll get to that Leo tells Josh in the Christmas episode of season 2, which is my favorite episode of the show.
Okay. Yeah, this is... There are so many ways to... There's so many ways to address this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Violence is not Jewish.
Right. I think it was actually, was it right before I watched this episode or right after I watched this episode? Anyway, I ended up talking about or thinking about Dead Man Walking and talking about it with another movie friend. And that movie is incredibly powerful, and Sean Penn's character is unremorseful at the beginning, and okay, all of these things. Oh, my brain is running in 18,000 directions.
It's okay. Do you need me to narrow in the scope of this, I guess?
No. Let's talk about Toby and the rabbi, right? Because we've talked about...
We can parse this out in individual details, because it affects Sam differently, and it affects Toby differently, and it affects CJ differently.
Right.
And then there's the president, and all of them have their own individual reactions to everything that's going on. So sure, we can start with Toby.
Or actually, let's take one step further back, because what happens with Toby happens because of Sam. And this whole idea that Sam's former bully is asking him for a favor, which I was like, whoa, this is very strange.
Not even asking him for a favor. And he even kind of gets on him about it. But you're going to tell the president this, and you're going to tell the president this, and that he doesn't have a choice on this. And I'm like, who the fuck are you, dude? Like, you tower over him, and isn't it Roland Emmerich? I think it is. I think that's the character actor's name. And he's in the Americans.
Roland Emmerich is actually a director.
Okay, maybe who am I thinking of? I'll look it up here, but continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the whole idea that I put it way too nicely, asking for a favor. His bully basically demands this information, and he acknowledges, I used to beat him up, right? He says to his friends, and then just goes in guns blazing. And I was like, whoa, this is such an insane take. It's not a we were friends or we were general acquaintances. It was that we actually had a contentious relationship and all of those things. Who's the actor?
Noah Emmerich.
Oh,
I had the last name right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So the fact that Sam very pointedly says, there's nothing that I can do. I do not have this sort of influence. Like, thank you. I understand what you want. I do not have anything within my capacity to assist you. And it's not because I'm refusing to assist you, but I also feel like Sam should have refused to assist him even if he could. I can't. You are asking me to perform brain surgery, and I am first baseman. Like, there is nothing related, right?
I don't think there's quite
No.
the separation that he actually has. Like, he does have a lot of influence in that particular sphere, and obviously he gets the ball rolling in multiple different ways.
Sure.
But also understanding that, you know, he has limited on his capacity. That being said, going towards this, my opinion on it is there is an Eighth Amendment argument that this shouldn't be allowed, but that's the legal basis.
Right. So. And so the whole point being is he personally can't do anything, and he kind of knows how this works, and this needs to stop, because it then takes him offhandedly giving this information that Toby's at Temple and whatever, and Guy runs with it and then starts moving all of these things in the background to get the rabbi to specifically start talking about this one issue so that Toby will feel influenced by it. So that actually has nothing to do with Sam. That has to do with his bullying his way through and trying to circumvent all of this type of stuff. And Toby talking with the rabbi, I thought was a really, really powerful thing. Finding out later that there's like this invasion of privacy that went on with all of that feels oof. But it builds on all of it, as we were talking about, like the moral implications, the religious implications, that it is on a lot of people thinking about this on a lot of different levels. I liked that we basically got to hear from a rabbi, and we also got to hear from a priest and
a Quaker, for that matter.
And a Quaker.
Although the Quakers are notoriously nonviolent.
Correct.
Save for Richard Nixon.
And, well,
I caught you off guard on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nixon Library. Very nice library, by the way.
Been there.
Me too. The fact that Bartlett says, I need to call Pope, right? Because he needs information on what to do. I'm like, okay, that's rad.
In that moment, if you go back and listen to it, let me call it the Pope. It's like this sing-songy thing, and it's like, can you ever say that the Pope?
The Pope.
It being kind of like almost Luigi-ish.
Yeah, I know. Let me call the Pope. The Pope. Actually, just the word the Pope is such a weird... I don't want to think about it too much because it's going to just sound like gibberish.
You got a Pope on a rope and a Pope on the soap.
So I liked that. I was like, yeah, this would be an appropriate thing to call the Pope about and just be like, what should I do? Carl Malden walks in and wow.
Dude was great for being like probably in his 90s.
Yeah, it's his last role. What a role to go out on. Like,
also not a guy who's a stranger to being a priest in a potentially violent situation on the waterfront.
Yes. Right.
Probably
Did Did he win an award, Academy Award for that? Or was he just nominated?
He might have won supporting actor. I'll look it up.
Okay. Yeah, he's... I guess there are a couple of people, if I wanted them to be my priest, like who have portrayed priests, like Carl Malden would absolutely be one of them. Bing Crosby would be another. But yeah, if Carl Malden's your priest, like, okay, I feel like it's good stuff. Their conversation...
So he did win supporting actor, but it was not for On the Waterfront. He only was nominated for that.
Okay.
He was the winner for 1952's Best Supporting Actor for A Streetcar Named Desire, also with Brando, and was the president of the Academy from 89 to 92.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I did know that he got nominated for both of those roles, and I was like, he won for one of them, and I can't remember which one. And it is actually the role that I prefer him in, which is Streetcar Named Desire, which we get to talk about together on your show, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So Bartlett, yeah.
Well, I was going to say that he lived for several years after that. It's not like he passed away immediately following this. He lived to be... He was 89 roughly when he did this. Because he passed away in 2009.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, but if that's his final role, that's why I said, what a role to go out on. Bartlett talking with Joey too. Okay, this is my note. Oh gosh. Talking with Joey about St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Immanuel Kant. I just lost it. Basically, I was just like, I felt like
political theory and
theology,
ethics.
Yeah.
Those are recurring themes for all of us nerds. In the
I basically was just like, oh my god, this is again, eject it straight into my veins. It was...
So that's a good place to kind of transition here.
Yeah.
This is a recurring character multiple times throughout the course of the show. Well, her and Kenny as her interpreter.
Yeah.
What did we think?
Loved. Didn't necessarily understand what was going on with her character so much in this episode, but really liked... Okay, Marley Matlin, how can you not enjoy just watching her? Because she's magnetic. But...
She's a primary political operative who was operating a campaign, and they were siphoning away funding because she was doing too well, and they wanted the Republican to continue winning because every time that he won and then he would come up with something crazy, they would fundraise off of it, and his net benefit for the fundraising was more important than them winning
having the position,
House seat. Not to mention because the guy that she was potentially going to do it with was a dweeb.
Yeah. So again, don't necessarily care about that scenario, but I liked her as a character, and I think that she just offered an interesting... Here's, I guess, my statement. She did not feel like a token to me in this scenario, which I was very grateful for, because we're still in the era of we've got this famous person who has a disability and we are going to la 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 in the same way, right, that we were talking about Mendoza and him being a token, potentially being a token. And so I loved her appearance. I liked her talking with the president. I liked that the president ended up being a little bit brusque with her, but then extends essentially this apology, right? I'm sorry, and I have an idea. The fact that he doesn't really know her, right? But he is asking for her opinions on this really heavy issue, which, by the way, the fact, I don't know if you're trying to save this, but the fact that he does not commute this sentence, and he's literally essentially watching the clock as time is winding down, and he has not stayed the execution. CJ has already read aloud the description of what will be.
Oh, and that's not even the half of it. Like, if you want what actually happens and the level of detail that Malcolm Gladwell goes into, it's excruciating.
No, I know. I've read and done the research. The ending shot of him
making confession,
having confession, him standing with the rosary at the window, and then yes, doing confession at the end. Oh my God! From a storytelling perspective, you kind of want him to swoop in and be the savior and be like, everything's fine. But there is no savior thing happening. In fact, we see that he is deeply grieved by his inaction, and what are the implications of that? Not just what are the implications of the death penalty, but what are the implications of me not preventing something that I did have the power to do, but I don't know if it's within my power to actually prevent that, or if I should be extending that power. And all of these sorts of things, I think, is incredibly powerful. Yes.
This is a very good island episode where it is operating outside of a lot of the other strictures of the plot lines that they've developed, and not a lot of else is coming in. Yes, they do introduce the whole Joey Lucas thing, but because that's new, this thing can still exist within its own space. Mm-hmm. And so it's not bringing in all the rest of this stuff, but it's dealing with a hard topic. And that's one area where this show really does shine. So let's make the transition then, unless you have some just burning remaining thoughts on 14, which, again, I really love, but I think we'll circle back to in a little bit. But I want to hit 15 here, since we're already at the hour mark.
I think, so here's what part of what I realize. You and I just enjoy talking about all of this stuff in a general sense. And I'm sitting here thinking of all of the things that I would love to discuss with you about the death penalty and the ethics and the theology involved with it. And I'm like, we're going to have a constitutional law podcast. Let's have a whole podcast talking about the ethics of capital punishment. And so, yes, on that note, we should 100% move on.
All right, so then let's move to episode 15. This will be the last of our discussion for this episode. This is entitled Celestial Navigation. It was directed by Christopher Miziano, story by Dee Dee Myers and Lawrence O'Donnell Jr., teleplay by Aaron Sorkin. This debuted on February 16th, 2000. Plot summary for this episode. Josh is interviewed before a group of college students at Georgetown, which is actually a pretty good framing device for this episode, about a supposedly typical day at the White House. Josh's remarks, including a candid description of his own mistakes, showcases a difficult and challenging day when CJ has urgent dental surgery and Josh conducts the press briefing in her place with disastrous results. While Sam learns that Judge Mendoza, the nominee to become the next associate judge of the Supreme Court, has been arrested in Connecticut on charges of drunk driving, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. Sam, having vetted Mendoza, knows the judge cannot consume alcohol because of a liver condition and heads to Connecticut with Toby. The two get lost along the way in a rental car, but eventually arrive at the small-town police station, where they work out the delicate situation. Quick note, Allison Janney won the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series for this episode. So, let me first ask you, what do you think is in the president's secret plan to fight inflation?
Print more money. Wait, no.
That's only going to cause more inflation.
Oh, yeah. Dang it! This is why I am
So
me
this is
and
why we
not
do-
in the White House.
Yeah, this is why we do constitutional law and not monetary policy.
You're right.
Only
Okay.
one of us it was only a class short of an economics minor. I think you can take a guess as to whom that would be.
It would not be me. I
I was gonna out you.
barely passed economics in high school. Okay, not.
Yeah, well, I
my
love
thing.
economic theory, but that's
That's-
beside the point.
Great. Yeah. So yes, constitutional law. We're on that ride together. Nope, not at all.
Well, except that economic theory really ties into political theory, but okay, I'll let you off the hook.
Okay. I don't know if you saw this, but you were like, "Oh, the framing of the story is really great." My number one note on this episode, Thomas, the framing of Josh telling this story feels cheesy. ... And then later, okay, I hate it. I hated the framing. I hated it so much. I hated it so much. That doesn't mean that this framing as a concept was bad, but I hated it with this particular storyline. I thought it was so contrived. The conversation that we were having earlier about reality television and it feels scripted, this was so scripted, which, it's a drama. I hated it. And it took me out of the story enough that I just was irritated the entire time. I enjoyed the story when we weren't dealing with Josh on stage secretly answering the phone to talk about what's happening because they're lost.
Okay.
Let me tell you, maybe it's because the previous episode was so gosh darn good that there was no going up any higher, so this one just had to crash and burn for me. Ultimately, I liked, again, some of the stuff that was happening in this episode, but the framing was such a huge detractor, and I will tell you, this is another one where the story is by other people. He had no input on the story, but he did do the teleplay, and I feel like I can tell, and I didn't like it.
Okay. Understood.
I didn't
Personally, for
like it,
me-
Josh.
Personally?
Didn't like it. Josh. Sorry.
For me, 13, 14, and 15 is the best 3-episode batch that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you don't feel that way. But did you like Judge Mendoza's character? Because this is the last we see of him.
No, I did like his character. I thought the resolution of it, I liked how that actually played out. And I liked how they basically come in and are trying to take him out. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting here, like, we're dealing with this. I'm facing this head on. This is some bullsh. And I liked the way that Mendoza essentially tells the story of how he gets arrested and this happened in front of my child. I liked that. I'm sorry, we're not going to see his character anymore. Does he actually... So if we're not going to see his character anymore, does he actually get confirmed?
Yes, as far as we know.
Okay. All right. I was like, hopefully it's not his character goes away because they were like, and he got arrested, so we have to find someone else. Yeah, I liked that component, and I liked them going up there. I just didn't like the framing. So, yeah, Mendoza, good times. Edward James Olmos, awesome.
The comedy of this episode is a lot higher due to the hijinks of them getting lost and CJ
Right.
not being able to pronounce anything like Puethwifing.
Yes.
And the secret plan to fight inflation. I think this is one that, if you like the hijinks and the comedy and some of that, it does stick with you a little bit. And that's why I don't mind the framing device, because we just came off that really heavy episode the time before.
True.
And we've had a bunch of these really sentimental ones right in a row. So to have one that's a little bit more, here's us kind of screwing up and being stupid, but also it ends up working out in the end kind of stories.
Well, and I do think Josh's, like, cocky demeanor going into the press briefing, taking over for CJ because she can't talk out loud. He's so confident, like the hubris is just oozing out of his pores, and I really actually liked that. It's the tongue-in-cheek retelling of it on stage, right? The poor CJ. As someone who has had to have like emergency dental surgery very recently, oh boy, yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you put off your dental appointments until the last minute, and then it just keeps, yeah. Now, I think this is a good opportunity to do something that we haven't done yet to this point.
Okay.
To this point, I feel like I know the answer to this question. Who is your least favorite main cast member?
Can I take away Mandy as my like?
I figured that would be the obvious answer. So
yeah,
but all right. Assuming because you already know that at some point her character will not return. Who's next on the rung?
Sam.
Okay.
And I don't actively dislike him. I just don't miss him when he's not around.
He there's a reason he ends up leaving the show after like the fourth season or like into the fourth season, other than the fact that he's not the main character and that was how it was originally sold. But the show very much becomes about the other people.
Yeah.
I think they all exceed him in their affability during the course of the show.
Right. And so when I'm saying like Mandy actively dislike, but we've addressed that multiple times, we don't need to anymore. Yeah, I think my least favorite character is Sam, but that is mostly because I actively like most of the other characters. I will say at the very beginning, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like Leo very much, but he's actually grown on me quite a bit more than I would have thought. And yeah, so right now I'm just kind of along for the ride in a lot of this. I mean, I really like CJ and I really like her smooching Danny, but she's not in the forefront, even though she's in every episode, right? So I wouldn't even call her a lead right now well, she wins the Emmy for supporting actress, but yeah, so. Okay. Who's your favorite character just throughout these episodes?
These three?
Well, up to this point.
Oh, up to this point?
Asking you the same question you just asked me, basically.
It's probably between Josh and Bartlett.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Bartlett is up there for me. The character that I most want to see more of is Abby. I'm like,
sure. Oh, you'll definitely get more.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it's not going to break my heart, but yeah.
No, it won't break your heart.
Okay.
No, they don't get like divorced or anything during the show. It's nothing like that. I mean, they have their moments where they're obviously like any couple, they're going to have their rocky moments of like fighting and whatnot. But I think that's always been a mainstay of the show is that they're a fairly solid relationship you know, has been through a lot. So, all right. But your favorite character to this point then?
My favorite character to this point, like, so across the board,
of the regulars, let's say, not the peripheral characters or the one-offs or the people that will kind of come in and out. So I'm not even meaning like Stockard Channing and Abby Bartlett, which is a recurring character but is not a regular or a series regular, but the main people on the show. I have a feeling I have a guess here.
Okay, go ahead and guess.
I think it's CJ.
I think that you're probably right, but I think close second or
sure
is probably Toby. Yeah, I mean CJ. I think it's obvious that I really like CJ, And let me tell you, if her as a female character was any sort of for me, I would tell you. So I'm pleased with her. But yeah, her and Toby, and I think maybe it's because they're both kind of doofy in their own little way. Like they're not like these glamorous people like roaming around. I feel like, think about like casting for this show now, what people would look like and all of that, and I'm just like, oh my god, give me a break. I like that these look like human beings. So
did this give you any new appreciation for the role of press secretary?
I would not want that job. Yeah. I think it's very, very intense. I liked that part with Josh completely messing everything up. Because he's like, yeah, I got this. He don't got this. And it's a much harder job than he is giving CJ credit for. And I think that is shown in spades in this episode. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything we would like to address on the actual arrest by Mendoza? I mean, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but kind of the racial implications, the police implications, the legal system implications at all. I mean, it's delving a little bit into the politics as opposed to the history of the show. So I don't know if you wanted to go that route.
Not really. The only other note that I have to myself, there's two notes. The insight into Charlie's job, because we finally see like more in detail what he's doing, which I really liked. But the issue that they have with, who is it? I wrote this quote down. Your role is to serve the president, which you failed at today. And
I think that's Josh.
Josh says that?
No, I think that's said to Josh.
Said to Josh? Maybe that is. No, because I wrote down this would never fly today. And I feel like it was racially motivated. I'm missing something. Wasn't there... There's a contentious thing that happens with somebody speaking out against the president.
Oh, that was the housing secretary getting baited into a reaction where she tells the congressman that he's a racist, and then she has to come into the meeting with Leo. You're right. That was the conversation between Leo and the HUD secretary, who happens to be black.
Correct. And I was, again, right, so my note is, like, this would not happen today. This would just be, like...
It wouldn't?
Nope. Oh, I'm saying him correcting her would not happen. Someone saying stuff like that, yes.
I was going to say that seems pretty tame for modern reactions.
No. Her saying, which absolutely, him reprimanding her, you've served the president and you failed at, and her just being like, okay. Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen. I don't think so.
You don't think that Pam Bondi got called under the carpet a few times? Like after the Epstein binders?
This would never fly today. Does she still have a job?
As of
this would never fly today.
Was it yesterday that she got fired?
This would never fly today.
Okay, so you're saying that the HUD secretary would have just been fired instead of reprimanded?
No, I'm saying that... I don't... Okay. You know what? Never mind. Just rewind, tape over it. It's bad. I don't know how to explain what I'm thinking.
That's okay. That's not an unusual... All right. Anyway, so let's rank these quick and we'll get out of here. 13, 14, and 15. I would say, I said 14 is probably one of my favorite episodes of the show, just as a one-off. And it's probably one I would show to just about anybody if you've never seen the show and you just like wanted to get an encapsulation, because it is that kind of island-esque episode that it can exist by itself. I think I would go 14, 13, 15 in that order.
That's what I have. 14 by quite a wide margin. And then 2, and then 13, and then huge gap.
But again, I think this is probably the strongest 3 set episodes or batch of 3 episodes that we've done up to this point.
I think dealing with, if we talk about the first episode as being more or less about like addiction. Okay, so let's just, if we parse them down to themes, components. First one is about addiction. Second one is about capital punishment. And the third one, more or less, when you get down to the end of it, is about racism. Then, yes, I think that they are a grouping of the strongest. What was the
At least to this point.
What was the last one? This one was... Oh, that stuff... Okay, nuclear war and... Oh, yeah, sickness, yeah. I liked the previous 3. I think emotionally, I liked them all together as a grouping, but aren't necessarily as strong individually in terms of a message, maybe.
I'm not sure you'd necessarily agree, but I'm saying that as far as the low point of any of these 3, I think they're the highest collective, where their lowest moments are still higher than some of these other ones. Like the last batch of episodes, episode 11 dipped a little bit more than that, and I was, it's fine, but it's not like one of the great episodes. And yes, 14 is reaching some heights that, for me, at least in this first season, are only matched by the finale.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you're getting a fairly high quality across all 3 of these, as opposed to anything dipping just slightly below it.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's more or less what I meant.
Yeah, no, I can fully agree with, again, like I said, those 3 I enjoyed collectively. These 3 I enjoyed more individually, but yes, we are agreeing.
So we only have, I guess, so this is 15 and we have 22 episodes. Mm-hmm. So that means there's 7 full episodes of the season of The West Wing. Mm-hmm. That is only equivalent to 3 episodes of our season of First Watch Rewatch. Mm-hmm. Let's just check in quickly. How are we feeling? How are we enjoying it? Was it a good suggestion by yours truly again?
I think it is a good suggestion by yours truly. You are still batting 1,000. I think this is one that I'm just going to be thinking about for a while, and it's going to marinate with me for a while. I'm thinking about some other things that you have suggested for me, and because I could just tell you what I was thinking in the moment instead of like sitting on it, at like, for example, when we would watch Severance together and just be like, or when I was watching Department Q, with Muppets, Dirty Muppets.
Yes.
The cast lived with me at my hotel that I was at the time. Okay, in Seattle. So, like, when I was watching Department Q, and I remember messaging you and just being like, "Oh my God, I have to keep watching this. I can't. I need to know immediately what happens. Like, this is, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." This show does not feel like that. They're different types of shows, but
there's the fun of it, there's the binginess of it, but there's a lot more underneath the surface to unpack, and it's doing different things.
Right, and I think that this represents it's ticking a lot of different boxes for me, right? I'm getting to be like the hopeless romantic with CJ and Danny and get to be cute about that, but also it's activating like all of the nerd parts of my brain where we get to talk about like philosophy and theology and ethics and all of those types of things, as well as just like the good dramatic storytelling, right? So it's fulfilling a lot of my interests, and Yeah.
And I don't think there's any downside to any of that. I think it is two different types of show, but I would also just wonder, or maybe caution, is we are going to get to some stuff possibly in this next batch or this next season or whatever that we're going to cover that'll be lighter or more just pure entertainment fare, where we're not discussing the heavy politics moments.
Right.
And you may watch that differently, or because you're doing a show on it, you may invest in it about the same. And so we'll just, I guess, have to see how that goes.
No, I agree. And so, but what I'm saying is, like, Department Q, for example, actually addresses a lot of those same issues with what is going on in terms of the things that I'm interested in. And as you called it, like the puzzle box sort of stuff that I seem to like. But that there is an intensity. Why are you laughing at me? You're laughing at me.
Not laughing at you.
Laughing with me? Chuckling at me?
Well, you weren't laughing, so I can't be laughing with you. It was more something occurred to me, and it just...
What?
It's fine.
We'll talk about it later. Fine. So that the intensity of that type of show, and again, being fewer episodes, right? And being free to just watch whatever I wanted, because you were just like, here, go watch it. Run free, my child.
You can't watch ahead. And you're hampered. When we get to the end of the season, you're going to have to stop on the hard network cliffhanger.
Well,
and
you know
it is
what
a doozy.
You know what do you remember what I said about the cliffhanger with the aircraft carrier? If you end on a cliffhanger and you never go back, everybody dies. So, everybody on the aircraft carrier is dead. So everybody in the show's dead at the end of the season. We'll have to see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I should always bring this back around when that happens.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, again, this is another 90-minute episode for us.
Tom, we're so bad at our jobs. We're so good at our jobs.
If you made it to the end of another one of these, congratulations. But that'll do it for us this week. Thank you for listening. If I can find where to... There it is.